People will listen later, so that's keeping in mind. And if people are joining, why the sound is not muted? Because if it's not muted, every time somebody joins, it has like a ding. Anyway.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock? You start to slowly start saying.
皆さんこんばんは。So welcome to New York City. And now it's morning here. So I had to say good morning to you. Manami is joining us. Come, Manami-san.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
We are sharing one chair.
Yes. Compact studio.
Compact studio. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Oh, you're recording now.
Yes.
Good.
So what we're going to do first, we prepared a little video for you.
Yeah.
And then we're going to show you an impression of some of the places we've been to. So I'm going to share it with you now.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to play 1 minute, around 1 minute video now. So you can watch the places we have been. Yeah?
Yes.
So you're going to share the screen? Yeah?
So we're going to go here, here, and off we go. So yes.
Stop share. Stop share. Yeah. Oh. You paused. Yeah.
We're back.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the places. Some places we've been. Of course, it's not.
Back on the video.
Yeah. You stop the video. Yeah, you need to start the video.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the places we've been. Of course, that's not every places, but some places, because we've been in total 67 countries, and we show maybe, I don't know, like 25-ish.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would have taken too long.
Yeah.
But 67.
Yeah.
I thought before we started traveling so much that we would come to a point where we said like, okay, I've seen everything I wanted to see.
Yeah.
But actually, no.
Yeah.
The more we see places, the more there are places we want to go see. Also, because we meet new people, and the people say, oh, have you been to that place? And we go like, no, where is it? Oh, in that place, close to that city. And we go, okay, so we keep having a longer list of places to go to.
Yeah, because what happened when you travel is you go to new places, and of course you meet new people, and they tell like, oh, have you been there? Or like, you know, have you seen that place? Or have you heard of those places? And of course, you know, we never heard some of those places. So we Google or we check. Then we thought, oh, wow, this is nice. So we should go. Then it's keep on increasing those lists. So that's why, like, you know, you never run out places you want to go.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I don't know if Manami-san told you about this, but Google has this fantastic app. So you can, if sometimes you need to talk to someone and you don't speak the language, you use Google Translate, and then you can communicate. So it can get you out of situations where you just need to have a small conversation. That's very nice.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, you know, when you travel, the Google shows an advertising in that country or that city. That's quite amazing, because when you are in Asia, you start, you know, when you are in Japan, actually, when you are in Tokyo, then like, you know, they start showing some Japanese language advertising on his computer too.
That's true.
Yeah, so when you travel, you Google like, you know, they know where you're going, so your computer advertising is changing all the time. That's quite fascinating.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so we came here to talk about international cities.
Yes, big cities. So yeah, so you can start from Rio de Janeiro. You know, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, it's like a big city, and he was born and raised Rio de Janeiro.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Rio de Janeiro is a city on the sea, and there are more or less, I would say, 7 million people that live in Rio.
Yeah, 7 million people is in Tokyo. There is, I think, about 12 million people living. So as a population, Rio de Janeiro is a little bit smaller than Tokyo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Brazil was colonized by Portugal. So we speak Portuguese in Brazil.
Yeah, there is no like Brazilian language. Brazilians people speak Portuguese. Even, you know, it's not really in Portugal, but they do speak Portuguese.
Yes. But like there are differences between Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal.
Yeah.
Like there is differences between American English and England English.
Yes. So,
but it's very, very close. So it's the same language, the small differences.
Yeah. So like, you know, because he used to live in Portugal too. So, you know, he has an experience that he was born in Brazil and speaking Brazilian Portuguese. But when he moved to Portugal, he was facing Portuguese, Portugal Portuguese. Yes. So what was the difference?
Oh, it was different enough that in the beginning I was having difficulty to understand because Portuguese people speak faster than Brazilians, and they also have a different accent. And some words that they use very often are a little bit different. So in the first 2 weeks I was living there, I was going like, could you repeat? Because I didn't understand. But after 2 weeks, it was okay.
Yeah, it's the same for the England English and American English.
Or Australian English.
Oh my God, Australian English. That
was very different.
It's very, very different. Yeah, but yeah, so I can notice it is English, but actually it's quite different. Like some words, I give you an example. Like for example, like a pants, you know, like a skirt and the pants, and US people say like pants, long, but England, they call trouser, it's quite different, and Australia is based on England English. So that's why, they have, I think, the common, but an accent in Australia is very, very unfamiliar for me. So I give maybe like 70 to 80% I can understand, but some detail in Australia, even it's in English, it's very difficult to understand. And also in US we call garbage,
or trash.
Yeah, trash. But in Australia they call rubbish. So it's quite different, even it's the same English. Yeah.
I think we're talking rubbish.
We're talking rubbish.
Okay. So we were back to after going to Australia.
Yeah.
I was born in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, Rio de Janeiro.
And it's a big city, and it's a city where there is a lot of mountains, and the mountains divide the city in different sections. And so one side of the mountain is very beautiful and very rich, and on the other side of the mountain is industrial and more poor. So everybody wants to live on the side of the mountain that is close to the ocean. And then Rio de Janeiro, that part of Rio de Janeiro becomes a little bit like Hong Kong, where you have these big buildings, or Manhattan, you have big buildings, one next to the other, and it's very expensive to live on these parts of Rio de Janeiro. And there's a lot of people in a very small place.
Yeah, and I've been to Rio de Janeiro last year as a first time, and I was very surprised because he was keep on saying to me that although he was living in a big city, he was surrounded by natures. That I didn't understand because I grew up in Tokyo. Tokyo is a big city, but I didn't have any nature, surrounded like the sea and of course like Tokyo Bay, but who can swim Tokyo Bay? Like no one, it's quite dirty, Tokyo Bay, so it's not really the nature you can play with. But he was saying oh yeah, I went to the ocean, I went to the mountain, and then like a mountain, Tokyo, Takao Mountain is in Tokyo, but it's quite far. It's not like, close to the downtown. But Rio de Janeiro, if you drive like 5-10 minutes, it's very, very small distance. You have a sea, ocean, and you have a mountain. You have really both. That I really surprised. I was very surprised because they have both. And until I see it, I couldn't understand because I was imagining like Tokyo or Manhattan, like those are the similar cities for me. And Manhattan, of course, they have Central Park, but it's like a man-made nature. It's not like an ocean or mountains. So it's Rio de Janeiro. It's definitely very unique. They have a nature and the city all together. So I was very surprised.
Yes, Rio de Janeiro has also a lot of trees. The streets are very often on both sides of the street you have big trees. Like in Singapore is also like that.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. If you have a chance or if you've been to Singapore, you know what I'm talking about. You are in the city, but it doesn't feel like you are in a city because you have a lot of green. My sister in Rio de Janeiro, she had an apartment that was facing the mountain, and the mountain is a jungle and it's a national park, and there were monkeys in the trees just outside her window, and big birds, and you come out of the building and it's a big avenue and you are in the city. Not like here in New York. New York is city. Lots of noise and sirens and concrete and big buildings.
And everybody think New York, like lots of honking, like that's so true. That's absolutely true. Wherever you go, you hear the honking all the time. And it's like a nature, because in Tokyo, not so many people honk, I think.
It's cultural.
Yeah, it's a culture.
Depends on the country.
Yeah.
In here in New York, I hear a lot. But New York is a world city, and most people that live in New York are not from New York.
Yeah, not New Yorkers, like original. Yeah.
So you get also people that come from hunking countries.
Hunking countries.
And then they bring the hunking to New York too.
Yeah, it's in some neighborhood hunks more than the others.
Yes,
that's true. Yeah.
One country I've been to that was like hunking country was Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Egypt. When you're driving,
yes,
all you do is honk the whole time.
Oh,
Cairo, everywhere you go, it's like so much noise.
Well, Turkey was quite a honking country too. They honk like all the time. And I used to live in Turkey for 1 year, and you used to live in Egypt
for 9 months.
For 9 months. So yeah, we were living those Muslim honking countries. Yeah. I don't say like a Muslim hunks, but it just happened to be our experience. It's those countries just happen to be Muslim and they hunk. So maybe
but
some
now,
links.
Now for many years we live in Curacao in the Caribbean.
Caribbean, yes.
And then you can look on
the honking. Honking is like when you make a noise with a car, like a and that's called honking. Yeah. Yeah, honking is like when you drive. Tokyo people don't honk that much because it's kind of rude. So in Tokyo, when you drive, you don't maybe like a little bit like a mini honk. But yeah, like US, oh my God, like and it's always honking. So that's called honking.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, we live now in Curacao in the Caribbean, and there's hardly any honking.
Oh yeah, people don't honk.
No.
In Curacao.
It's very there's not so much traffic.
Yeah, not so much traffic. Yeah.
And
not so much population.
And people are very kind and very patient on the road.
Yeah. It's very mellow. It's like Okinawa, because Curacao is island, and in Japan, Okinawa people are more laid back and more mellow and more slow and more like whatever. So yeah, like that. Yeah, Curacao is probably slower than Okinawa.
Yes.
Curacao too.
Yes. But you can look up on Google. If you go Google Images and you go Curacao, there's beautiful pictures of Curacao.
Yeah. And the Curacao, the spelling, how to write. People, first like, is this Curacao? Because it's really starting C-U-R-C-A-O. C-U-R-A-C-A-O. Yeah, it's Curacao, but it's not from K, because in Japanese they call Curacao to, but so it sounds like like the Curacao. Yeah, that's how it's spelled. So many people say like, is this Curacao? And yeah, it is. And actually, because Japanese people to put any foreign language to katakana, which is like a form of saying in Japan, and so that's why Curacao is in Japanese it's Curacao. So it sounds more K, than C, Yeah, but it's starting from C, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah, and Curacao is also a drink.
Yeah.
There is Curacao. A liqueur called Curacao.
Yeah,
and it's made of orange.
Yeah, it's the Curacao liqueur. Yeah, Curacao liqueur exists, and that's the orange Curacao, and the blue Curacao is famous for the cocktails for drinks.
Yes. Yeah. So if you ever see a blue drink, it's probably containing Curacao.
Yeah, it's like blue. I don't know because I don't drink cocktails. Yeah, like blue Hawaii is, but that's a syrup for the snowball, so it's not really. Yeah, but anyway, blue Curacao is if you see any blue kind of liquor or cocktail, alcohol, some at the bar or restaurant, it's most likely curacao, blue curacao is in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now we were talking about New York. So New York is a city that was mainly built before the cars.
Yeah.
So it's very compact.
Yeah, it's very old city.
It's an old city.
Very old.
Before I came to New York, I imagine it's all modern. And yes, perhaps in Manhattan you have a lot of modern buildings, but the city is an older city.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of traffic and a lot of walking.
Yes, lots of, and you know, because you see all the TV, New York is a very, very like fashionable and modern, and yes, they have some buildings like that, but most of the buildings are very, very old, and quite a few buildings are built by pre-war, which means before the World War II. So it's very old, actually.
Yeah. No elevators.
Yeah, no elevator. Yeah, they have a walk up. Yeah, we call the building without elevator called as a walk ups, because you have to climb up and walking up to the building. And in New York, you can see a lot of buildings like 6 stories, 6 floors, then no elevator. So you have to climb, you know, the stairs. Then you go home.
So if you live on the 6th floor and you just came back from the supermarket and you find out that you forgot to buy fish, there's no fish for dinner.
Yeah, there is no fish.
Because you don't want to go back down and come back up for just that fish.
Yeah. So it's
you
very
always
old.
make a list.
Always make a list. Or nowadays with iPhone probably, or smartphone, you make a list of what to buy so you don't forget. So you need a strategic plan to go to shopping or to go out. And then, like, you know, when you go out and when you go, you know, first floor from 6th floor, going down and down and down, and then you realize, oh, I forgot an umbrella.
Oh. So you get wet.
You get wet. Or you do multi-exercise.
Yeah. And then, so, and it's between the Americas and Europe. Cities are also quite different.
Yeah, it's different. Yes.
In Europe, most of the cities are very old. 1,000 years, 700 years, 600
it's amazing.
years.
It's very old.
And in Europe, people build houses to last centuries.
It's very different, because you know, most Japanese houses are not old. Well, especially like a Tokyo area, because they have the Tokyo, how do you say, like, you know, Tokyo burning, you know, the area.
Fire.
Tokyo fire. Yeah, like a Tokyo big fires during the World War II.
Bombing?
Bombing too. So that's why, because of the war, the Tokyo area, the buildings are mostly destroyed. So that's why you hardly see any of old buildings. But, you know, New York never lost the war. So New York was kept for long time ago, and they didn't affect as war. So that's why, like, you know, all the buildings are surviving. And also New York, there is no earthquakes, and there is no very hardly any hurricanes. So that's why, like, they don't have those kind of natural disaster that Japan has, especially earthquakes. So that's why, like, you know, Japanese people cannot expect the building will last forever because of those typhoons. Actually, in Japan, they call typhoons, and the same thing in Western countries we call hurricanes. But basically, it's the same thing. But depends on where you are. In Asia, it's typhoon, and in Europe and America, it's hurricane. But it's a storm. It's the same thing. Not many people know that, actually. I didn't know. I thought, it's a different thing, but they just call differently for the same thing. Yes?
So, although New York, as Manami-san was saying, the buildings are old. If you're talking to a person from Europe, they say, they are not old. For Europeans, an old building is more than 200 years. For an American, an old building is more than 30 years.
Yeah, in Japan, old building is maybe like more than 10 years.
Yeah.
I think it's quite old.
Old building, depending where you are, has different meaning. If you go to China, old building is thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to Egypt, old building is 4,000 years.
Yeah. So yeah, depends on the countries. They differ. Old buildings or old something is totally different. How many years is old is very different. And also, like, the people's age. Nowadays the Japanese people I met, my friend, she's 23 years old. She's young, okay? But she said, oh, I'm already 23 years old. I'm quite old. Like, no, you're young. And, I noticed in New York, people, especially, during with black culture, they start saying, like, instead of like, oh, I am 30 years old, they said, I'm 30 years young. Did you notice that?
Yes,
yeah, they said they don't use the word old because old feels old. So they said, oh, yeah, I became 45 years young, instead of 45 years old. So that's quite a different culture. But for black culture, because in New York, there are lots of different people forming some neighborhood only with those people. Like, for example, the black culture in New York City, places like Bronx. Bronx is a neighborhood. They have lots of black people, and also Bronx is famous for Yankees Stadium. The Yankees, the baseball, New York Yankees, So who was in New York Yankees? Matsui, yeah, I think. Yeah, Matsui Hideki was in New York Yankees. So they had a stadium in Bronx, which is north of Manhattan. So that place, there are lots of black people. That's a black people culture.
Yeah. And that is also something interesting of big cities. Well, you have big regional cities and big world cities. A world city is New York, Paris, London, or even Singapore, because these cities attracted people from all over the world. So you have not only one people like you have in Japan, where you go everywhere and you see Japanese. Now, if you go to Paris or to London or to New York, you have Africans, Middle Eastern people, Latins, everything. So these people normally, and that's typical, they get together and they live in the same neighborhood.
Yes.
So, for instance, here in New York, you have a neighborhood with Indians, a neighborhood with Chinese, a neighborhood with Latins or Koreans.
They have a place called in New York, Manhattan. Inside Manhattan, they have the famous Chinatown. Well, Japan has a Chinatown in Yokohama too, but here, the Chinatown. Actually, in my opinion, the Yokohama Chinatown is better than Chinatown here because it's kind of chaos. So, but Yokohama is very clean and beautiful. Even like some Chinese people prefer Yokohama Chinatown. So they said, oh, that the Japanese Chinatown is so nice. New York Chinatown is actually they have a Chinese Chinatown called Flushing, or tourist Chinatown and the touristic Chinatown called Chinatown in Manhattan. It's not that far, it's within 1 hour, but they have a too big Chinatown. So if you go to Chinatown, you see like, oh, this is the Chinatown you see on TV, type of like a very touristic. But when you go to Flushing, it's really China, because they speak only Chinese and everything is written in Chinese, and if you are not Chinese, you cannot rent apartment. It's quite China. So yeah, I didn't know until I come to New York, but that's so true. So they have lots of Chinese people, living as is. It's in China, in New York. And even for some neighborhood, like Indian neighborhood, they are looking for some like a waitress or some part-time job, and they require like Hindu language, not English. You must speak Hindu language in New York City. So I thought that's quite funny, because it's the same thing that you have some restaurant in Tokyo, then they require some like you must speak only Italian. I don't care about Japanese in Tokyo, but you have to speak Italian, something like that. So it's quite interesting culture here, because there are lots of people living here.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is also something typical of big cities. Those of you that live in big cities, perhaps you recognize it. A big city is like many small cities put together. So if many people live in one part of town and work there, go to school there, shop there. So you end up not having to see the rest of the city, because it takes too much time. So then here in New York or in Paris or in London, you have a neighborhood where you have, for instance, only Vietnamese people. And it's convenient for them because they can speak Vietnamese. They go to the shop and they have Vietnamese food, they have Vietnamese restaurants, and they live in that little village like if they were in Vietnam or Arab neighborhood or Spanish neighborhood. It's very interesting. So as a tourist, if you go from one neighborhood to another, it's like going from one country to another.
Oh yeah, it's very, very different. So that's interesting. And also, like, when I came to New York to live first time, it was 2010, 11, like, around 7 years ago. I was very surprised. One thing is a laundry, washing clothes and the laundry. People in New York usually don't have the washing machine and dryers. So like you have to go to the coin laundry, laundromat, they go here. So to do your washing clothes.
So coins.
Yeah, the coin laundry. So yeah, like you really, and there are lots of coin laundries in New York. And I was wondering, like, how come those people have lots of coin laundry? Like, why don't they wash your clothes, at home? But yeah, because of the city is so old, so the water pipes are not supporting for those big machines. So they don't have enough capacity for majority of people, like, lots of numbers of people. So that's why, like, they need to build the separate laundromat, the coin laundry all over the place. Yes. And it's quite interesting culture, yeah, because even in the States, I used to live in Florida, everybody has their own washing machine and own laundry, So I never go to any coin laundry in Florida because I was washing my clothes at home. But yeah, in New York, if you have a washing machine in New York, it's extremely rare, extremely special.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you take cities like Miami, Los Angeles, Houston, or Dallas, these are new cities. They are less than 100 years old, and they were developed after the car existed. So they are bigger cities. They are more spread out. They are not compact like New York or Paris, because they had space and they could move around. So people live in houses instead of high rises, and they have all these conveniences.
Yeah, they have, but inconvenient is without a car, you cannot go anywhere, because I was living in Florida, and that was my little bit inconvenient. Well, for me, for many American people, it was probably super convenient because, I grew up in Tokyo, and I was using a public transportation, like trains and the buses and stuff like that daily. So of course I had a driver's license in Tokyo, but I was a paper driver, so I didn't drive every day because I never own a car, and my family never own a car. We always take a, bus and a train and a taxi. So that's why, like, when I came to America, of course, I took a driver's license right away in Florida. Then, yeah, I took a driver's license test. Then I start driving, but everywhere I go, I have to drive. Even when I want to buy like piece of bread or water bottle or juice, I need to drive, like no matter where I go. And first, because I was not good at driving, so I wanted to minimize my driving time. So I thought I want to buy like small shopping, but because I don't want to drive, so I said, never mind, I do it tomorrow. So yeah, that happens, yeah, to me a lot. And also depends on the places, or when it's raining and when it's night, then I don't really want to drive, So that happens a lot to me.
New York is like Tokyo.
Yeah, just like Tokyo.
Most people, they don't have a car.
Yeah, no cars.
No place to park the car.
Oh my God.
It's very
parking.
expensive.
Yes.
And it's a lot of traffic.
Yes.
So it's better to walk than
Yes.
to drive.
Oh yeah.
But if you live in certain cities like Miami, if you don't have a car, you don't survive. Because public transportation is bad, and it's very big distances. Yes. I have a cousin that lives in Miami, and like the other day we were there, and he says, "Oh, let's go out for dinner. We go to a restaurant." And I said, "Is it far?" No, it's very close by. It's only 25 minutes. 25 minutes by car? So here in New York, if you go down, you walk 5 minutes, you have 20 restaurants.
Yeah, it's like Tokyo, like Shinjuku or Shibuya or Roppongi, you find restaurant like everywhere. So that's New York. So it's the same, you find the shopping and you find the restaurant. And I think a little bit different is New York has much more varieties, because Tokyo foreigners are mainly, especially recently, like many Chinese people and many Asian people, and after 3/11 Fukushima, that's many Caucasian, the white people actually went home. So that's why, like recently, lots of people are from Asia, different Asian countries, mainly from China. So that's why, like food is, of course, an Asian food have more variety. But in New York really has everybody. So that's why you can find everything at any time. So that's very, very special. Like, you've never heard that food, but yeah, it's available. Like, yesterday we went to Argentina restaurant, and there are a couple Argentina restaurants in our neighborhood too. So it's quite interesting. They really have everything you can think of. If you think of, they exist. So that's very special.
So, minasan, when you come to visit New York, no problem. You will find Japanese supermarket, Japanese restaurant. You have great sushi in New York.
Oh yeah, great
no
sushi.
Problem.
Well, the problem is it's 3 times more expensive than Tokyo. So there is no belt conveyor. There is no kaiten sushi.
Yeah, sushi is luxury food.
Yeah, sushi is super, super expensive in New York. So do not expect you can find a cheap sushi. And it's expensive and it's good, but you would think like, oh my God, I am paying 3 times more than Tokyo. That's true. That's absolutely true.
If you want cheap fish in New York, you go to McDonald's.
Oh no. No. Yeah, maybe some Chinese. The Chinese food is inexpensive, I think, in New York. Well, almost everywhere. Chinese food is cheap food. But they really have a great Chinese food in New York, especially like dumplings and those stuff. I love it. So yeah, it's quite nice.
So just to talk a little bit more about other big cities, here in the States, most of the immigration is from Latin America. So you have a lot of Spanish, different groups, because Guatemala, Mexico, Peru, very different food, very different people. But in Europe, if you go to places like London, England had many colonies all over the world. And all the people that used to be in the colonies, when the colonies became independent, many of them had the choice between staying or going to England. So many of them went to England. So when you are in London, you see many different foreigners. But if you go to Paris, France had different colonies. So they have different foreigners.
Many Africans.
Africans and Middle Eastern.
Yeah, so, Africans and Middle Easterns. That's a lot. Yeah, US, you see a lot of Latino people from Central America and South America. Yeah, but in Europe, you see a lot of African people, like, from Morocco, from Egypt, and those like African countries, and also Middle Eastern countries like Iran and Syria or Turkey. And because I used to live in Turkey, Turkish people usually go to live Germany, because Germany is very popular destination for Turkish people to immigrant. So especially like city like Munich, in Japanese we call München. München is Munich in English. So that city has a lot of Turkish immigrants. So you can hear lots of Turkish. And actually, the city I used to live in Turkey is called Izmir. And Izmir is south of Istanbul. And that Izmir, because they have a lot of direct flight to Munich in Germany. So that's why lots of people in Izmir also speak German too. So Turkish people are very talented for languages, in my opinion, because they quickly learn a lot of foreign languages. Not so much Japanese though, but some places they really talk like, whatever. I don't know the reason why, but many people in Turkey remember one Japanese is Bazar de Gozaru. So I don't know why but many places I go there, they say like, oh, Japan, Bazar de Gozaru. And why? Yeah, it's so weird, it's like an old commercial, in old TV commercial. It's some, I forgot for what, but it's a commercial, they had the phrase, but many Turkish people know that Bazar de Gozaru everywhere, Istanbul and Cappadocia and Izmir, and many people talk to me that particular Japanese. Somebody, taught them and they remember.
Yes. So when you think of Europe, you think probably a lot of white people, but when you go to Europe nowadays, it's very mixed.
Yeah, very mixed.
Because in the last 30, 40 years, there has been a lot of immigration. So when you go to Paris, it's almost like you're in the Middle East or in Northern Africa.
Oh yeah.
You have a lot of Middle Eastern people and African people. If you go to Rome, there's a lot of African people too. And in Germany, as Manami-san said, there's a lot of people from Turkey and from Syria. So Europe is no longer just Europe.
No.
Europe is like a mixed salad of people from all over the world. And that brings many interesting challenges, because now in the countries, you have a lot of children that come to school and they don't speak the language of the country properly. So the schools have to develop new programs to cater for these children that don't speak French or don't speak German or don't speak English or don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's challenging. Probably for Japanese people, it's a little bit difficult to imagine, because if you go to Japanese school and if you do not speak Japanese, you can't imagine that the situation. Probably like everybody in the class speaking Japanese in Japan. So yeah, if you have some students who come to the class and they don't know anything about Japanese languages, and that's it's hard. If it happens. Yeah, it's difficult to imagine. But in many big cities, big world cities, that's happening a lot because of the immigration. And actually, Japanese government, they hate immigration. So it's, Japan is also known for not accepting any immigrant. And that's absolutely true because even like, for example, in the States, if the babies are born in the States, even the parents are not Americans, the baby can become Americans. They can get US citizenship. So they can become American because of the birth. But in Japan, that's not applicable. So even for foreign couple, husband and wife come to Japan and give a birth to the baby, but that baby is not Japanese at all. The only reason they can become a Japanese is because of the marriage or because they stay like 5 or 10 years and they become Japanese. But because Japan does not accept dual citizenship, so Japanese people cannot have more than one nationalities. That's that makes the things very difficult too, because like for example, I was born in Japan, so I was Japanese, but because of the marriage I got the US citizenship too, but in order to become an American I had to give up Japanese. So that's why like for nationalities for me, I no longer Japanese, I'm only American. I have only one American passport and I have only one nationality, American. When I go to Japan, I'm immigrant. So I go to the foreigners line, and they give me the stamp and the sticker because Japanese immigration for foreigners, they give the sticker. It's like almost like a stamp sticker, the sticky thing. And I can stay in Japan only 3 months at a time. So I always need to calculate, like, try not to overstaying in Japan. It's kind of like weird because, I was living in Japan for 20 something years, but now I'm kind of kicked out of Japan. So yeah, but in your case, his different situation. He has a dual, citizenship. So he's Brazilian and he's Swiss. So he can live and do whatever he wants to do in both countries. And now, he in the Caribbean too. So he has actually.
Do you hear the siren?
Yeah, the siren.
Welcome to New York.
Yeah.
So Switzerland
yes.
is a country that the law says if you are the son or the daughter of a Swiss citizen, you are Swiss. So even if you are born in South Africa, if your parents are Swiss, you're also Swiss. But Switzerland says you can have many passports.
Like US
yes.
too.
And Brazil says, like the United States, if you are born in Brazil, you are Brazilian, even if your parents are not Brazilian.
Yeah.
But if your parents are Brazilian and you are born in Spain, you can still have a Brazilian passport. And you can have many passports. So I have 2 passports, Swiss passport and Brazil passport.
Yeah, so I have only US. So yeah, so it's a difficult question for me because many people ask me like, what is your nationality? And my correct answer is America because I have only America passport. And then they said, but you look like an Asian. So I say, well, yes, I'm a Asian American. Lots of Asian American in the States too. Then but if people ask me where were you born, then I say I was born in Japan, but I became a US citizen. So now I have only one nationality, which is America. So yeah, so my situation is always complex to explain anyone asking those like a basic question, like especially like where are you from? Because right now we came from Singapore to New York, but I'm not Singaporean, because many people say like, where are you from? And I said, yeah, I came to New York from Singapore. And then they said, oh, you are Singaporean. And I said, no. So where are you from? And then, okay, so I live in Caribbean. And then they say, oh, so you are Caribbean. And no, I'm American, but I'm visiting America. And but you look like Asian. And like conversation goes on and on and on about very basic stuff. But yeah, there are lots of people like me in America because it's so mixed.
Nationality is something you never think about if you never leave your country.
Yeah.
You think like, okay, nationality, not important.
Yeah.
But if you travel, nationality is very important.
Oh yeah.
Because if you travel, the country where you come from, your passport has a big influence in the quality of your travel. Japan is a very good passport because people all over the place say, oh, welcome Japanese. But if you have a passport from Africa or from some countries in the Middle East,
like South America,
people look at you and say, like, what are you doing here? And you can be a good person with money and honest and everything. They look at you like you are not a good person. So I wish one day there are no more need for passports because, this is especially if you begin to travel and you start seeing how beautiful the planet is and how everybody is having just a nice life like we are. You think, oh, this is sad that we have to have passports and nationalities because we are all one big family.
Yeah. It's really, but many people ask nationalities, and people want to define where are you from, and they have some the stereotype ideas who they are depends on the nationalities. So that's now, but through the world traveling and the world ventures, and it's really like beyond the nationalities and beyond the countries. And it's very, very nice because especially like, when we go to the big events, like international events, and lots of people are coming from many different countries, and even for the dream trips or any trips, if you go join those other people and try to share their thought and their thinking, you see human more than nationalities, and it's quite similar for many places.
When we begin to travel, and we have the tendency to compare. Here in France, it's different than in Japan. But if you travel a lot, you start appreciating every place because of what they are. And then you realize that your own country is just another country. Because when you don't travel, you think, my country is correct, and my culture is better, and the foreigners are stupid, or the foreigners are weird. But when you travel a lot, you realize that you can also be a foreigner, and you have more empathy. You understand better how it feels to be foreigner. And you see that also by traveling, your mind grows. You become more flexible. You become more able to adapt, to learn new things, and you become more curious, and you start enjoying change. And that's beautiful.
You have to, but when you first moving, it's interesting. There are some phases. So, like for example, I moved from Japan to Virginia in the States first, which is near Washington, D.C. Actually, we are going to Washington, D.C. today. But so, first I start enjoying, the first time is excitement and enjoyment, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm in foreign country, how cool, how nice. And you pick up all the good things about that country or that place. Then, 1 month or 2 months, a little while later, then you start noticing like inconvenience of that country. In my
and you start missing food from home.
Yeah. Because the US food, and I start thinking like Japanese food is much better than US, or like Japanese people,
Japan.
or like Japanese people are much polite than US. How rude US people, or like those things. Like you start noticing how good Japan was and how horrible US is, and you start complaining about it. Then after a while, you just like nothing I can do if I complain or not. Then you start adapting that. Okay,
you start making friends.
Yes, you start making friends,
and having
you get
habits.
familiar with certain things, and then you adapt those new cultures. And once you adapt those new cultures, and then going back to visit to Japan, you notice like, oh my God, Japan is very different. It's like a reverse culture shock.
Yes,
you have
that's
in Japan, in any countries, you have like once you adapt for new cultures from new countries, then you go back to your own country. It always feels like something is very different, or you notice something like, wow, I never noticed this, but now it looks very different.
Yes. I lived in 12 different countries, and what Manami described is like textbook.
Yeah.
It's every time the same.
Every time.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Oh my God, this is so tiring and so different. And then you make friends and go, oh, this is nice here. And then you go back and go like, I like the other one too. So, and that's why, traveling changes you.
Yeah, it does.
For good. And you become more flexible. And then you realize that some things of your own country are better than other countries, but some things of other countries are better than your country. And you can start making choices to which one is better for you.
Yeah, it's so nice. So traveling is very nice, and we keep telling other countries and the comparison, because we've been to 67 countries. It's quite a lot. And also he lived in 12 countries and I live in 5 countries. So that's why how we feel and how we travel, and we have lots of story. And also we both speak languages, so that's why we can really ask the people in local and mingle and make friends over there. And many people, we become friends on the Facebooks from our trips. So that's why we want to share how travel is going, and the benefit, and those good things.
And I want to thank you for being here with us and for being interested in abroad and new things. And I recommend for you that you create possibilities for you to go to other countries. Because when you go to other countries, you realize how beautiful and important it is to speak other languages. And then you have the need for other languages. Because to learn a language, you have to need it. If you don't need it, you go like, okay, I'm gonna learn it one day. But if you need the language, then you learn really fast. And when you learn a new language, your mind grows even more. It's fantastic.
So I think the first meeting is quite nice. And we are about to wrapping up. And yes, we do every Tuesday, 9 p.m. in Japanese time. And everybody else just calculate their own time. So but everything we record, so that's why we can upload for YouTube, and we make some description and the titles what we've talked about. And every week we change the topic. So if you have somebody who wants to listen some English conversation while they're learning about the world and the traveling, this is a great opportunity for them to join as well.
And also, to keep it interesting for you, please give us suggestions or questions,
feedback,
things you would like us to talk about. Because we are doing this for you. And if you are enjoying it
Yeah.
and you're learning it, then
Yeah.
we're doing a good
So
job.
yeah, we can have some topics every time we change, or we can talk about one specific cities or something in general. So yeah, it's a free session, and yeah, we can prepare some slides or videos if needed. So yeah, like we wanna keep this session interesting and informative for the people who are listening to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Time is
thank
timing.
you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And have a
thank you
very good
much.
night.
Yeah. Have a
And
very
then
good night.
see you next week
Yes.
from
see you
another
next
city.
week. Yeah. From Washington D.C.
Washington. We're going there now.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Yes. Stop recording. And meeting.